Hey there, hope you're having a wonderful day. In this video, we're going to be coding a memory card game or a matching card game. So what you see here is the project that we'll be making in this video. And for the game, I've decided to use Pokemon cards because I think it's more fun if we use images that many people can recognize. Many people have seen Pokemon cards before, right? So basically, we have 5 columns and 4 rows of cards, and they're all face down. And we have an error count here, and we have a restart game button. So I'm just going to click on the restart game button, and for 1.5 seconds, you'll be able to see all the cards faced up. Okay? And if I click on this button again, it's going to generate another game. And you can see the cards are now in a different order. So if you select 2 cards, and they do not match, you have 1.5 seconds to memorize those cards. And if they do match, for instance, this one and this one, then the cards will stay faced up. And every time you get a match wrong, the error count goes up. Alright, so that's pretty much how this game works. So let's make this game. And before we begin coding, I just want to quickly mention that I am working on various tutorial series. So you can find all the tutorials on my YouTube channel, as well as on kennyupcoding.com. And on this website, you'll find all the projects and tutorials that I have available on my channel. So here I have some programming basics in Python and C++. I have some Python game tutorials. So far I have Snake and Tic-Tac-Toe. But in the future, I'll have more game project tutorials in Python. For Java, I have tutorials on Space Invaders, Chrome Dinosaur, Flappy Bird, Blackjack, Minesweeper, Tic-Tac-Toe, Snake, and we now have Memory Card Game, or Match Cards, which is this tutorial. And I have a ton of tutorials in JavaScript, so I have a tutorial on Doodle Jump, Breakout, Flappy Bird, Space Invaders, Sudoku, Wordle, Minesweeper, Candy Crush, and so on. Okay? So if you want to stay up to date on new tutorials, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And again, you can find all the tutorials on kennyupcoding.com. Alright, so for this tutorial, I will be using Visual Studio Code. And if you want to learn how to set up Java with Visual Studio Code, I have a tutorial on that, and I'll link it in the video description. Alright, let's begin. Press Ctrl-Shift-P, Java, create Java project, no build tools. And I'm going to select desktop as my project location. And for the project name, I'm going to call it Match Cards. Alright, so now I have my project folder, and if I click on the source folder, we have this app.java file. So this is going to be our main file. And the first thing I'm going to do is just get rid of this line. And most of the code is actually going to be written in another file. So I'm going to right click here, new file, and I'm going to call this matchcards.java. Alright, so all of the code that we'll be writing will be in this file. Alright, so now that you have your matchcards.java file, the next thing you need to do is click on the GitHub link in the video description. In the GitHub link, you'll find the completed code as well as all the images that we'll be using for this project. So here we have the back of the card as well as the different cards that we have. And what I want you to do is just take this image folder and drag it to your source folder. Okay, so now we have all the card images within our project. Alright, so let's begin coding. So the first thing I'm going to do is import a few things. So import java.awt.*, import java.awt.event.*, import java.util.arraylist, and import javax.swing.*. So we're going to use the array list to store all the cards for our game, and the other import statements, they're going to be used for the graphical user interface or the GUI of our game. So here, let's just create a constructor, so match cards. And I'm just going to add a quick debug statement. So system.out.println match cards. And then within our app.java file, I'm going to create an instance of match cards. So match cards match cards is equal to new match cards. And that's all we need for this file. So I'm going to close this and let's run our file. Okay, and you can see we have our debug statement over here and it says match cards. Okay. All right, let's get rid of this. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up the cards for our game. So this will include loading the card images and then adding the cards to our deck and then shuffling them. After we create our cards, we're going to create the UI element. So it'll be our game window. So over here, I'm just going to create a class to represent the cards. So class card, and this is going to be a simple class. So it's going to have two things. One is the card name, and the other is going to be the image, specifically an image icon. So when we press on a card in our game, what we're actually pressing is a button. So we're going to set an image icon for each button. So here I'm just going to do image icon, card image icon, and that's all we need for our data members. Let's create a constructor. So string card name, image icon, card image icon. This dot card name is equal to card name. This dot card image icon is equal to card image icon. And I'm going to add a toString operator. So for those of you who don't know, when you want to print out a class, you need a string representation. So here I'm just going to do public string to string, and I'm going to return the card name. So when I create a card object and I print the card, it's going to call this function. Okay? So now we need a list of cards. So the list of cards is going to be a list of strings, basically the card name, and we are going to iterate through this list and create these card objects and add them to our deck. So we have the card names here, and it's just going to be darkness, double, fairy, fighting, fire, grass, lightning, metal, psychic, and water. So the card names will not include the file extension. So here I'm just going to create an array. So string card list is equal to, and here let's just list them out. So darkness, double, fairy, fighting, fire, grass, lightning, metal, psychic, and water. And don't forget the semicolon over here. Alright, so we have an array of card names, and just make sure that you didn't misspell any of the image names, okay? Alright, now after that, let's create some variables for our game. So here we have 4 rows, so I'm going to create a variable called rows and assign it 4. And columns, we have 5. And for each card, I'm going to assign it a width and height. So int card width is going to be 90 pixels, and int card height is going to be 128 pixels. Now let's create an array list. So array list card, and I'm just going to call this card set. And then I'm going to create an image icon for the back of the card. So card back image icon. So each card is going to have an image icon saved, and it's basically one of these 10 images. So we need a variable to keep track of the back of the card, so that when we flip the card for the button, we assign it the back of the card image. Alright, so now we have our variables. Let's do 2 things. First, we need to set up the cards and add them to this array list. And then the next thing we need to do is shuffle the cards. So I'm going to call 2 functions, set up cards and shuffle cards. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up the cards. So here I'm going to do void setup cards. And we need to create an array list. So card set is going to be new array list card. And let's iterate through our array of card names. So for string card name, card list. And here I'm going to load the card image. So let's do image card image is equal to new image icon get class dot get resource, and this is going to be a string, and this is going to be where the file path of the card image is. So dot slash image slash, so this is the image folder, plus the current card name, plus dot jpg. So this is going to be a JPEG image, and here I'm going to do dot get image. So this is going to load the image, and we're going to assign it to this card image variable. But what we need is an image icon. So the reason why I did get image is because when we assign the image to the button, we need to scale it. And for those of you who might not know what this means here, basically get class refers to this matchcards.java class, and we're basically getting the resource from this file path. So starting from where this matchcards.java file is, we're going to get the resource within the same folder. So that's why I did dot slash image slash file name. Okay. So we have our image folder, and it's in the same directory as matchcards.java. So that's why I did the dot slash over here. All right, so we have our image, and what we need to do is scale the image so that we can fit it in our buttons. So I'm going to do image icon, card image icon is equal to new image icon, card image dot get scaled instance, and the width is going to be card width, which is 90 pixels, and the height is going to be card height, which is 128 pixels. And here I'm going to add java.awt.image.scale smooth. All right, so for each card in the list, we're going to load the image and then scale it. Now let's save it. So I'm going to create a card object. So card is equal to new card, and I'm going to pass in card name and card image icon. And let's do card set.add card. All right, so now we have 10 cards within our deck. And now what I'm going to do is extend the card set. So card set.add all card set. So this is going to pretty much double whatever we have in the array list. So now we have 20 cards. All right, so now that we have our deck with all the cards loaded, the only thing we're missing is the back of the card. So here I'm going to do image card back image is equal to new image icon get class dot get resource dot slash image folder slash back dot jpg, and then here we need to do dot get image, and then afterwards let's scale the image and set it to card back image icon. So new image icon card back image dot get scaled instance card width card height and java.awt.image.scale smooth. All right, so now we have our cards set up. Now we need to shuffle the cards. So let's create a new function called shuffle cards. And here I'm just going to add some print statements. So system.out.println card set. So right now, if I save and run the program, you can see we print out all the cards in our deck. So we have darkness, double fairy, fighting, fire, grass, lightning, metal, psychic, water, and then it repeats again. So we have not shuffled it yet. So let's shuffle it. And shuffling is actually quite easy. So I'm going to do for int I is equal to 0, I is less than card set.size, I++. And basically, we're going to iterate through each card in the deck. And then for the current card, we're going to select a random card at a random index and then swap the two. So here, I'm going to need another index. So int j is equal to int math.random times card set.size. So basically, math.random returns a number between 0 and 1, and we multiply this by card set.size, which is 20, but the 20 is not inclusive. So it's actually returning a number from 0 to 1, but not including 1. So j is going to be a random number between 0 and 19. And let's just swap the cards. So card temp is going to be card set.get I, and then let's do card set.set I, card set.get j, and card set.set j. Let's set it to temp. And over here, let's just print out the results. Alright, so now let's save and run the program. And here we have the cards before we shuffled them. And afterwards we... Okay, so I think there's an error somewhere because we are getting darkness, double, fairy, fighting, fire. This is in order, so let's see where the error is. And basically the error happened on this line. So what we're doing is we are casting math.random to an int. So when you cast a floating point number between 0 and 1 to an int, you're basically making it 0. So j is always going to be index 0. What we want to do is actually cast the results to an int. So this should fix our problem. So let's save and run the program. Okay, so we get darkness, double fire, double grass, fighting, psychic lightning, and okay, cool. So I think we do have the cards mixed up. So let's close this and run it again. And I think this looks different. So grass, water, darkness, meadow, grass. Let's run it one more time. Okay, yeah, it's shuffling every time. Okay, cool. Alright, so we have our deck of cards and we've shuffled the cards. Now let's create our UI component. So we're going to need a window for our game. So over here, let's create some variables for our game window. So I'm going to define a board width. So this is going to be the number of columns times card width. So we have 5 columns and each column has a card. So we have 5 times 128, which is 640 pixels. And let's do board height. So this is going to be rows times card height. So 4 times 90, we have 360 pixels. Now we need a window. So the window is going to be a J-frame. And within here, we can add a title for our window. So I'm going to call it Pokemon Match Cards. So this frame is going to be our window. And within the constructor, let's set some properties. So here I'm going to do frame.setVisible. And I'm going to make it true. Frame.setSize, board width, board height, frame.setLocation relative to null. So this is going to place the window at the center of our screen. Frame.setResizable, false. So this is going to make it so that the user cannot change the size of the window by dragging on the sides. And then frame.setDefault close operation. And I'm going to do jframe.exitOnClose. So this is going to make it so that when you press on the X button of the window, it's going to terminate the program. So let's save and run the program. And you can see we have our window over here, okay? Alright, so now that we have our window, let's add some components. So the first component I'm going to add to our window is a panel for our text. So we need 2 things. We need a J panel, and within the J panel, we're going to add a J label. So the label goes inside the panel, and then we place the panel inside our frame, which is our window. So J label, text label is equal to new J label, and J panel, text panel is equal to new J panel. And then here I'm going to do text label dot set font, new font, Arial, font dot plain, and let's make the font size 20. And we want to center the text, so text label dot set horizontal alignment, J label dot center. And then let's set the text. So we're going to set the text to the number of errors. So over here, I'm just going to do int error count and just initialize it to 0. So here I'm going to do text label dot set text errors plus integer dot toString error count. Okay, so that's it for the label. Now for the text panel, I'm going to do set preferred size, new dimension. So the width is going to be equal to the board width, and the height, I'm just going to make it 30 pixels. So now we have our panel. Now we need to add the label onto our panel. So text panel.add text label. And then we need to take this panel and add it to our window, which is the frame. So over here, I'm going to do frame.set layout, new border layout. So here we have our window, and with the border layout, we can assign components a fixed position, either north, south, west, or east. So we're not going to use west or east. North is going to be used for the text panel, which is the error count. At the center, we will have our cards. And then for south, we will have our restart button. And you can find a lot of documentation for Java graphical user interface with AWT on Oracle's website. So if you ever have any doubt on some of the code that I'm writing, you can look up the documentation to see what each line or each function is doing. Okay, so I'm going to be using the board layout for our window. And ideally, you want to set visible to true after you've added all your components into your frame. So here I'm just going to comment this out. And down here, I'm going to do frame.add text panel. And I'm going to assign it to the north of our window. So border layout dot north. And then I'm going to do frame.pack. So this is going to recalculate the width and height of our window after we've added all the components. And then finally, I'll do frame.set visible to true. So let's save and run the program. And you can see we have our window over here. And because of frame.pack, the window is actually smaller because we only have one component, and that is this text panel over here. So let's add the board to our game. So the board is going to be another J panel. And this is going to be called board panel. And over here, I'm going to create an array list to keep track of all the buttons that we will be placing on the board. So this is going to be an array list of J buttons, and let's just call this board. All right, so let's set up the game board. So I'm going to set up the board before we call frame.pack and frame.set visible to true. So let's create a new array list. So board is equal to new array list of J button. And for our board panel, we're going to use a grid layout. So unlike the border layout where you set components north, west, east, and south, the grid layout is just what it sounds like. We're going to set the individual components with a number of rows and columns. So basically as a grid. So board panel dot set layout, new grid layout, and we need to specify the number of rows and columns. So rows, columns. So we have 4 rows and 5 columns. All right, so now we're going to iterate through all the cards in our deck and create a button for each card. So let's create a J button. And I'm just going to call this tile. So card set.size is 20, so we have 20 cards. So we need to create 20 buttons. So let's set some properties for each button. So tile.set preferred size, new dimension. So basically we need to specify a width and height for each button. So for each button you see on the screen, it's going to be equal to the card width and card height. So over here, we've loaded the images for each card and we scale the image to card width and card height. And we need to place this image icon onto the button. So the buttons and the images will have the same exact width and height. And then I'm going to do tile.setOpaque to true. So now let's set the image to the button. So tile.setIcon cardSet.getI. So for the current card, we need to get the card image icon. And then I'm going to do tile.setFocusable to false. And then after we have our tile ready, let's add it to our array list. So board.add_tile. And then we need to add this button to the board panel. So this array list is just for keeping track of all the buttons. And if you want to display the button in our game window, you would have to add it to the board panel. So board panel.add_tile. And then afterwards, let's do frame.add_board_panel. All right, now let's save and run the program. And you can see we have our cards within our board panel. And if I save and run it again, you can see we have the cards, but this time they're in a different order. All right, so now that we have our cards, let's add one more thing, and that is the restart button. So over here, I'm going to add two things, a JPanel, and this is going to be the restart game panel. And then we need a J button, and this is going to be the restart button. All right, so let's set some properties for our restart button. So restart button, I'm going to set font to be new font, Arial, font.plain, and let's set the font size to 16. And let's set the text, so restart button.set text, restart game, and let's set a size for the button, so restart button dot set preferred size, new dimension, board width, and 30 pixels for the height. Restart button dot set focusable to false. And then afterwards, let's add the button to our restart game panel. So restart game panel dot add restart button. And then let's add our restart game panel to our frame. So frame.add restart game panel. And I'm going to place it at border layout.south. So let's save and run the program. And you can see we have the error count here, we have our game, and we have this restart game button. All right, so we have our UI ready, and now the first thing we need to do before we can play the game is we need to show the cards to the player, and then afterwards we need to flip all the cards face down. So in order to set a delay, I'm going to use a timer. So when we show the cards to the player, we're going to let the player see all the cards for 1.5 seconds before flipping all the cards face down. So we need to create this delay of 1.5 seconds. And there is a built-in function with thread.sleep in Java, but the issue with that is when we use thread.sleep, it's actually going to pause our program, so it's going to make the UI not responsive. So instead, we are going to use a timer. So I'm going to do timer, hide card timer, and I want to add a boolean game ready, and we'll set it to false. So basically what the timer is going to do is after 1.5 seconds, we're going to hide all the cards by making them face down, and then we're going to set game ready to true. So when the game is ready, we're going to allow the users to click on the cards to flip them. So within our constructor, down here, I'm going to do hide card timer is equal to new timer, and we need to pass in how many milliseconds. So 1.5 seconds is equal to 1500 milliseconds. And we need an action to happen after 1500 milliseconds. So I'm going to do new action listener at override public void action performed. And this is going to take in action event E. And within this action performed, I'm just going to call hide cards. So this is a new function that we need to implement. And don't forget the semicolon over here. So basically, after 1500 milliseconds, we're going to call action performed, which calls hide cards. And this will be on repeat, but we only want this to happen once. So I'm going to do hide card timer dot set repeats to false. So let's define hide cards. So down here, I'm going to create another function called hide cards. And basically, I just need to iterate through all the cards in our board. For that reason, I created the array list to store all the J buttons. So for int I is equal to 0, I less than card set dot size, or you can do board dot size. It doesn't really matter because both board and card set would have the same size, so 20, but I'll just use board dot size, I++, and we're just going to get the button board dot get I dot set icon card back image icon. So basically, we're just looping through all the buttons in our board, and we're changing the image to the back of the card. And we have two array lists for a reason. So one array list keeps track of just the buttons you see on the UI, and the other is the card set, which keeps track of the order of the cards. So the card set has the information for the image icon of the card. Alright, so after we set all the cards face down, I'm going to do game ready and set it to true. Alright, so before we run the program, what we need to do is start the timer. So let's go back to our constructor, and over here I'm going to do hide card timer dot start. So within our constructor, we're just going to call start once when we run the game. Alright, now let's save and run the program. And you can see we have all the cards faced up, and then after 1.5 seconds, they all face down. Alright, so the cards are all face down. Now what I want to do is, I want to be able to click on two cards and see if we get a match. So over here, let's add two variables. So J button, card 1 selected, and J button, card 2 selected. So basically, when I click on a button, I'm going to assign card 1 selected to the first card button that I click on, and then if I click on another one, we assign card 2 selected. Okay, so we select two cards. Alright, so let's implement the action listener for the buttons. So over here, I'm going to do tile.add action listener, new action listener at override, public void action performed, action event E, and don't forget the semicolon over here. So we're only going to allow the player to click on the buttons to select the cards if the cards are face down. So in the first 1.5 seconds, the cards are all faced up. We don't want the user to start clicking right away. So I'm going to make a check. If not game ready, return. Otherwise, let's figure out which button the user clicked on. So J button, tile is equal to, here I'm going to cast J button to e.get source. So this is going to return the button that we clicked on. And we only want to be able to select a card if it's face down. So if tile.getIcon is equal to card back image icon, so if we click on a button and the button currently has the back of the card image, then we're going to flip it. So here we need to make a check. If card 1 selected is equal to no, so we only want to assign card 1 selected and card 2 selected if there's nothing assigned to them. So if I click on one card, we assign it to card 1 selected. And if I click on another card, I want that to be assigned to card 2 selected. So here I'm going to do card 1 selected is equal to tile. And we need to figure out which card we selected. So let's get the index of this button in our board. So int index is equal to board.index of card 1 selected. And then card 1 selected, we're going to change the icon. So set icon to card set dot get index dot card image icon. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we have two array lists, one for keeping track of the buttons, which is useful for finding which button we clicked on, and the other array list is the card set. So each button within the board array list corresponds to each card in the card set array list. Okay, so we assign the card 1 selected if it's null, else if card 2 selected is equal to null, we're going to do the same thing. So card 2 selected is equal to tile, int index is equal to board.index of card2 selected, and then card2 selected dot set icon card set dot get index dot card image icon. So let's save and run the program. Alright, so 1.5 seconds has passed. Now we can play the game. So if I click on this card, it flips, we get a fighting card, and then I click on another one, we get meadow. So when I click on two cards, we get two scenarios. One, the cards are equal, so if the cards are the same, then we leave the cards face up. Otherwise, we flip the cards face down. But before we flip the cards face down, we want to create a delay of 1.5 seconds so that the player can remember what the cards were. So let's go ahead and implement both scenarios. So we're only going to make the check if we select two cards. Alright, so if we make it to this point in our code, this means we have two cards selected. So here we're going to make a comparison. In order to confirm whether two cards are equal, or rather two buttons are equal, we're going to use the image icons that we assigned. So if two buttons have the same card image, that means they're the same card. So if card1 selected dot get icon, and here I'm going to make an inequality check, so not equal to card2 selected dot get icon. So if these two cards selected are not the same, then I'm going to bump the error count by 1, and let's set the text label and update it with a new error count. So I'm going to do text label dot set text errors plus integer dot toString error count. So if they're not the same, I update the error count by 1, and then I flip the cards face down. So here I'm just going to reuse the hide card timer and call hide card timer.start. And this is going to call the hide cards function. So currently, if we just hide cards, it's going to flip all the cards face down. So we don't want that. Instead, I'm going to make a check. So if game ready and card1 selected is not equal to null, and card2 selected is also not equal to null, then I'm going to set each individual card face down. So card1 selected dot set icon card back image icon, and let's set card1 selected to null, and let's do the same for card2 selected. So card2 selected dot set icon to card back image icon, and then card2 selected, we'll set this back to null as well. Else I'm going to take this piece of code and place it in here. So now we have two situations where we would want to hide the cards. We only hide two individual cards, or we hide all of them, okay? Alright, so we flip both cards face down after 1.5 seconds. And then here I'm going to do else. If card1 selected and card2 selected are the same, then I'm just going to leave them both faced up. And I need to do card1 selected and assign it to null, and card2 selected and assign it to null as well. So here we don't change the card images. So let's save and run the program. Okay, so if I select two cards, they're not the same, so there's a 1.5 second delay, and then we flip the cards face down. Okay, and you can see the error count goes up, and if I select two cards that are the same, you can see there's no delay and the cards stay faced up. Okay, so if I select these two cards, I can't select any other card until the two cards are face down. Alright, so we pretty much have a playable game of match cards. And all that we really need to do now is make this restart game button work. Alright, so let's make the restart game button work. So I'm going to do restart button dot add action listener, new action listener at override. So here I'm going to do public void action performed, action event E, and don't forget the semicolon over here. So in the beginning, game ready is going to be false. So if the game is not ready, we don't want the player to click on the restart button so soon. So here I'm going to make a check. If not game ready, return. And restarting the game is actually very simple. All we need to do is reset all the variables and the UI elements to the starting condition for the game. So here I'm just going to start with game ready and set it to false. Then we need to unselect both cards. So card 1 selected. We'll set this to no, and card 2 selected. We'll set this to null as well. And then we need to shuffle the cards. So shuffle cards. And after we shuffle the cards, we need to iterate through all the buttons in our board and update the images. So let's iterate through all the buttons. So for int I is equal to 0, I less than board.size, I plus plus, board.get I, dot set icon, card set dot get I, dot card image icon. Okay, so we shuffle the cards and we update all the buttons within our board to show the new cards. And then we need to update the error count, set it to 0, and then text label dot set text errors plus integer dot toString error count. And then afterwards, we're going to do hide card timer dot start. Okay, so let's save and run the program. Okay, so the cards are face down, the game is ready. I'm going to click restart game. Okay, so let's play the game. We have a match here. And we have an error here. So let's restart the game. And you can see it shuffles the cards and then shows you all the cards in their new position for 1.5 seconds and then flips them back down. And one more thing I want to add is with the restart game button, if we're not able to click on the button, we should disable it and then re-enable it once the game is ready. So by default, when we start the game, the button should be disabled because the cards are faced up. So I'm going to do restart button dot set enabled to false. And we want to set enabled to true after the game is ready. So in the hide card function, I'm going to do restart button dot set enabled to true. And then when we reset the game, I want to disable the button again. So I'm going to do restart button dot set enabled to false. So this way, the player is not going to constantly click on the restart button. All right, now let's save and run the program. You can see the button is disabled and I just clicked on it. But if I restart game, it's disabled again. Okay. All right, so let's try and play the game. So we have one error and I actually already forgot where all the cards were. So let's restart the game. All right, so let's play the game. So I think these two are lightning and this water. Okay, over here. And I think this was psychic. Nope. I think it was here. Fire. What was this? Psychic? Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay, we have fire here. I think fire was over here. Yes, it was. Okay. Double. Was it here? Nope. What's this? Double. Okay. And then psychics here. I don't think I clicked on this one. Okay. And then fighting. Oops. Nope. What's this? Fighting. Okay. Okay, so we've completed the game. We have 7 errors in total, and I can't click on anything else. So what I can do now is restart the game. Okay. Alright, so we have a fully functional game of match cards or memory cards. And you can continue working on this game if you want. I encourage you to style it up, and you can look up other card images online. So maybe you want the game to be more difficult, so you might want to add more rows and columns. Another feature you can add is a check to see if all the cards are matched up. So basically, if all the cards are face up, that means you've completed the game. And if you complete the game, you should probably update the text label to show game completed. And to do so, all you need to do is add a variable that is an integer and just keep track of the number of times we get a match. Another feature you can add is a stopwatch feature to see how fast you can solve the game. And you can also add a 2-player version where you alternate between 2 players on the same computer to see who can get more matches. So those are just some of the features you can add to enhance the game and make it more fun. But yeah, that's it for this tutorial. We have a fully functional game of match cards or memory cards. And if you found this tutorial helpful, make sure you give this video a like. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. And if you want to stay up to date for more tutorials like this one, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.